KMOX. All right, man, let's get going here. Here we go. Let's go.
On a Monday evening, we welcome you in. It is a Gray Bar Sports Open Line right here on KMOX. My name is Matt Pauley. Have you for the next couple hours, taking you till 8 o'clock this evening. Glad to have you with us. You're going to get a lot more Sports Open Lines here starting in about a week or so, as the Cardinal season will come to an end on Sunday. And then more often than not, we'll be coming your way each weekday night for a couple hours, 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock for a Gray Bar Sports Open Line. We've got a lot coming up on this edition of the program today. Guest on the show today, we are going to talk with Brian Barnhart, the voice of the University of Illinois Athletics, football and basketball. But we'll talk with him about Illini football. What a great win for them on Friday night. They go to Lincoln and knock off Nebraska. That's a fantastic victory. They do it in overtime. They had a chance to maybe win late, didn't put much of a drive together. Then they go into overtime, and man, were they good in the extra period, as they had no problem scoring their touchdown, and then their defense really turned it up a notch. So that was impressive, and I think a lot of people are taking note of Illinois football going on the road. Not that Nebraska's a great team, but Nebraska was in the top 25. That's always a tough place to go, going into Lincoln. Even when they're down, that's a tough place to play. So going to Lincoln, getting a victory, that was impressive. That was impressive all the way. So good on them for coming away with that win. We'll talk with Eli Hoff from the Post-Dispatch and STL Today later on this hour. We'll talk Mizzou football. They also get a win. They also are ranked, but it felt a little bit different for Mizzou because they played a Vanderbilt team that we don't think is very good. And Vanderbilt played them tough, so tough that they go to overtime. But sometimes you have days like that, and you just need to find a way to win. And that's what Missouri did. People are worried about their ranking going down. You kind of knew that was going to happen when you allow Vanderbilt to play that tough. Missouri is going to have plenty of games against plenty of teams that will help them have their ranking go up. So I'm not too worried about that. And then next hour, we're going to do mostly Cardinals. It's strike zone hour here on Sports Open Line. So really three big things are going to be coming up in the 7 o'clock hour. We're going to listen into some of what John Mozeliak had to say to Tom Ackerman yesterday morning, because I think it was interesting what he said, more than anything else, because it helps to maybe start to kind of show us what direction the team is going to be going in this offseason. So that's one thing we're going to do next hour. We're going to listen back to the comments that were made by Wilson Contreras and Nolan Arenado. That's probably been the biggest Cardinal story of the last 24 hours or so. Arenado to a certain extent, but certainly Contreras saying some things that have caught some people. I don't know if off guard is people just took note. People took note of what Contreras said, essentially, and we'll play the audio coming up next hour. Essentially, he's calling on the organization to make the team better and to do things, and for the front office to make a run where this team and this organization can take control of the NL Central with moves that they make. And I don't per se disagree with anything that Wilson Contreras said. I do question a little bit if it was the correct forum to say that. I also, sometimes I get a bit uncomfortable when, even if it's not by name, if a player is being critical of the team, well, in turn, you are being critical of your teammates. And that makes me just a little bit uncomfortable. But it's also, again, at the end of the day, I appreciate the honesty. I appreciate the candor. And I don't disagree per se with the stuff that Wilson Contreras said. So we'll get into that coming up a little bit next hour as well. And also Bryan Kennedy, our good friend from Channel 4 KMOV, First Alert 4. He is going to join us. We'll talk Cardinals baseball and a few other things as well. We'll get into some Mizzou football with him. That's going to be coming up in the 7 o'clock hour. But the Cardinals, they wrap up the home portion of the schedule yesterday. You know, they've won. They've looked good against some good teams in the second half of the season. That's the thing that frustrates me. You know, I saw something today. It was either during my hit with Chris and Amy or with the Glover show. I was looking at our text line, and somebody was on before me, and somebody texted in and said, remember, the Cardinals lost 2 of 3 to the White Sox. I think trying to say this is how bad the Cardinals are. They lost 2 of 3 to the White Sox earlier in the year. And I understand having that take and trying to use that as a way to like prove something, But one of the most infuriating things about this Cardinals team this year was the fact that they did go have success against good teams. They had many series wins. And I'm never one to judge a baseball team in a 162 game season on one series. So you're never going to hear me say something along the lines of, well, they did lose 2 of 3 to the White Sox. As bad as the White Sox are, and the White Sox are arguably the worst team in the modern era of Major League Baseball. I am not sugarcoating the White Sox whatsoever. They are horrible. They are terrible. But the Cardinals aren't the only team that they won a series from. Now, they didn't win many series, to be fair. They didn't win many. But you don't judge the Cardinals on how good or bad that they possibly were this year based off one series. It's the totality of the season. And I also think it's when the wins come and when they really, really needed them. In the second half of the season, there's really 2 moments for the Cardinals, because don't forget, this is still a team that they're above 500. And I'm not sitting here telling you that being an above 500 team means that they've had a really good season. Clearly they haven't. They missed the playoffs going into the season. The hope is that they were going to be a division winner as the season went along. The hope became that they would get into the playoffs. None of those things are going to end up happening. But when I look back at this season and I try to figure out the moments where things did go wrong, I think about that 4-game series in Chicago in the first week of August, and they lost 3 of 4. They were coming off the trade deadline, lots of momentum with Eric Fetty and Tommy Pham coming in. The excitement was palpable inside of the clubhouse. They had outscored the Texas Rangers 18-2 in the final 2 games of that series. They had all the momentum in the world, and it felt like they were ready to go on a run. And then what do? They lose 3 of 4 to the Cubs. That's the first moment I look at. And then the second moment, when they were just holding on for any possible hope that they could be a playoff team, they went to Cincinnati and got swept in a 3-game series. If those 2 series go different, I guess you can say, well, if any 2 series go different. But to me, those are the 2 crossroad moments in this season for the Cardinals. Losing 3 of 4 to Chicago and getting swept in Cincinnati, all in the month of August, and they were just never able to recover after that. We'll talk a lot more Cardinals baseball coming up later on in the program. Up next, though, Brian Barnhart will join us. We'll talk through what happened with the Fighting Illini on Friday night in Lincoln against Nebraska. That's up next. This is a Gray Bar Sports Open Line on KMOX.
This is Megan Lynch. Computers could someday predict what plays would give your soccer team the edge.
I've gotten to hear sort of the player perspective on this. They hate it.
Listen tomorrow morning at 9:20 here on KMOX.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely on advertisements.
If you've been injured in a car wreck, you need the best. Onder Law, voted 2023's best law firm in St. Louis. We know how to handle the insurance companies, and we'll make sure you're compensated for physical, emotional, and financial injuries. Let us make your case our cause. Car accident? Call Onder Law today for a free review. 314 or 618-9-MILLION. That's 314 or 618-9 all zeros.
Hi, I'm Stacy from Fairwinds River's Edge Independent Living. We know today's older adults aren't wrapping up their life's journey. They're seeking a new one, and our team is here to help them do just that. We take a beyond the body approach to well-being that brings well-being and living well to life. We do wellness really well, and here you will too. Schedule your tour at fairwindsriversedge.com. 1-bedroom apartments start at $39.95 a month. See you soon.
There's breaking news all day long from around the world, and sometimes all that noise makes it hard to hear about what's happening right here at home. With the free Odyssey app, getting your local news plus breaking news is easy. And even when you're not near a radio, stay connected with what's going on right here by listening live and push alerts. Just download the free Odyssey app and search and follow your local news station, and you're good to go. The local breaking news to get you through your day at your fingertips on the free Odyssey app. That's AUDACY.
If you owe the IRS, you have a legal issue, and you need the Lance Drury Law Firm. We'll protect your rights. Log on at lancedrurylaw.com.
Do you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt or personal loans? With credit card debt at all-time highs, Debt Relief Advocates is urgently notifying consumers of debt relief now being made available, designed to aid consumers with out-of-control credit card debt. Those who qualify and enroll for this relief program will only have to pay back a fraction of what they owe. This is not bankruptcy or a debt consolidation loan. This is a relief program that credit card companies would rather you not know about, as it ends your debt nightmare and saves you lots of money. Consumers owing at least $10,000 in credit card debt or personal loans can now take advantage of this debt relief as the cost of living skyrockets. Debt Relief Advocates has established a relief hotline for you to call to learn what debt reduction you may qualify for, so don't wait. For this free information, call the Relief Hotline at 800-525-8448. 800-525-8448. 800-525-8448.
Music director Stefan Denev opens the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra's season with Symphonie Fantastique, a spectacular showcase of Hector Berlioz's creativity and emotion. Delight in Berlioz's timeless masterpiece and the vibrant new violin concerto by Mason Bates, with a performance by the exceptional Gil Shahan. September 27th and 29th at Stiefel Theater. Tickets at slso.org.
213 Flashpoint Complex, which is available at Supplement Superstores, will take you to the next level, just like it does for me. I've been killing it in the gym for the last month with a big assist from that 213 Flashpoint Complex. Now, here's what it does. During the day, increases metabolism, fights cravings, gives you all-day focused energy with no crash. Overnight, it burns fat by lowering cortisol levels. It boosts recovery, helps you get a restful night's sleep, and it tastes pretty good, too. 213 Flashpoint Complex is available at Supplement Superstores. Find your location at supplementsuperstores.com.
Broadcasting from the Underlaw Injury Lawyers, GetJim.com studios.
KMOX.
It's Gray Bar Sports Open Line right here on KMOX. Illinois football, they have defeated two ranked opponents in the same season for the first time since 2007. They are off to a 4-0 start for the first time since 2011. They won a fantastic game with a great performance against the number 22 Nebraska on Friday in overtime, 31-24. On the call of that game and always on the call of Illini football, he is Brian Barnhart. He joins us right now. Brian, thank you so much for your time. How are you?
Hey, Matt, great to be on with you. And, happy to be talking about a great start for the Illini.
Yeah, I'm watching that game on Friday, and the thing that really struck me was they did not have a great drive on that final drive of regulation, but then, man, oh, man, did they look great in overtime. They scored the touchdown easily, and then the defense, what was it, the 3 straight sacks or whatever it was to shut down Nebraska. A lot of teams, if you kind of have that down of not having a great drive at the end of regulation, it'd be tough to turn it right back around. But, man, they had no problem right there.
No, you're right, Matt. In front of, 86,000 fans who were there for a big celebration that night, 400 straight sellouts and undefeated Nebraska and so forth. So it was almost like if, you're in a boxing match and it was, both fighters are doing really well. And then all of a sudden there's a knockout punch. And that was in the overtime. And you're right. The drive when Illinois got the ball first in overtime, Caden Fagan, was able to get around the end real quickly and get them down close. And then they punch it in, of course. And then on defense, once I think Nebraska on their first play got called for a false start. So they started, back at the 30. And then Aaron Henry, the defensive coordinator, dialed up a couple of blitzes right away. And it was the first time all night Dylan Raiola, the quarterback, who's outstanding, by the way. He's a really good freshman quarterback. That was the first time all night he looked really rattled. Mm-hmm. And Aaron Henry just dialed it up at the exact moment it needed to be done. And then the last sack, Dylan Rosiak, the Illini linebacker, just came through untouched and sacked him, and the game was over. I mean, it happened so fast and so dramatically that, it sent everybody home back to Champaign pretty happy.
From a belief standpoint, because you look at the season, how it went along, a blowout in the first game, the way it was supposed to be against Eastern Illinois, then what felt like a really good win against number 19 Kansas as the season has gone along. Well, maybe Kansas isn't quite as good as we thought they were going to be. Another game you're supposed to win against Central Michigan, and then it felt like this was the moment on Friday where this team showed that everything that they've done so far is legit. Do you kind of agree with that? Is there a belief that's going on now with this 4-0 start?
I think, the belief has been there a little bit more because season ticket sales have been up. We had our first sellout in several years, of course, for the Kansas game, had 51,000, which is a big crowd for a game against Central Michigan. It was homecoming, of course. But I think you're right. You're expected to win the first game. They didn't play perfect against Central Michigan, but they did it very workmanlike. And then, of course, the Kansas game. And that's still a really good Kansas team. I know they've lost a couple of times since, but Jalen Daniels just gave us fits last year in Lawrence. That entire team, really hurt Illinois out in Lawrence the year before. So that was a really good win. But you're right. I think part of it, Matt, I think is the game was on national TV on Friday night. It was a ranked matchup, two ranked teams, and all that was at stake for Nebraska. And then to go in there on national TV and win it, that's what's created not only the buzz nationally and now the number 19 ranking, but for Illini fans, it's like, hey, I think we've got something here. And the team has believed it all along. And Brett Bielema is, the best I've seen in organizing a team, getting his roster the way he wants it, the way he works with his players and coaches. I mean, we saw him win at Wisconsin in the Big Ten years ago. And this guy knows how to win football games. And he's just really good at what he does.
He was the defensive coordinator at K-State when I was at K-State as a student, and I covered him. And I loved him at K-State. And I've always felt like he's a much better coach than maybe he's been given credit for. And obviously his stop after Wisconsin didn't quite go the way that he would have wanted to go. But I don't know. I've always thought that Brett Bielema was a heck of a football coach. Well,
you were there, of course. Bill Snyder. He worked for Bill Snyder. He worked for played for Hayden Fry. He worked for Kirk Ferentz. He worked for Barry Alvarez at Wisconsin, of course. After the Arkansas job, he went to the NFL. He worked for Bill Belichick. I mean, he's telling, and he's told us, and I agree. I mean, I think we're getting the best version of him as a person. He's got two young daughters, and he's married with his wife and their kids. He's a little more mature now, I think. He'll tell you that. And as a coach, he's learned a lot. He's learned from the very best. He was just talking today about, one of the things he learned on how to treat road games and home games to be exactly the same, regardless of where you are, is through Kirk Ferentz, who's been so consistent at Iowa. So he's picked up on different things over the years from different coaches, and not just any coach, but some of the best in both college and pro football. So I think we're getting a really good version of him.
His record is what it is at Illinois, and everybody knows in many ways this is a make or break year for him. And the 4-0 start doesn't guarantee anything. The team still has to continue to play well. How has he addressed that at all in terms of knowing that his seat was a little bit warm? Is that something that he talked about, or is it just, get rid of all that noise and just go do your job?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I think he's in really good stead. He's got an athletic director, Josh Whitman, who's fully behind him. I think, Josh was like, hey, we want to get someone who can have some sustained success, consistent success. And Brett Bielema is all about that. And so I think they're joined at the hip on this in the goals that they have to succeed at Illinois, which has not been an easy job over the years for a lot of different coaches. We've really had high highs and low lows, but to try to be more consistent and competitive and smart and dependable and tough. And I think he's, as long as he continues to win as I don't sense the seat is even warm at this point, because he's got a really good contract. He's got facilities that he can use. He always wanted to get back to the Big Ten. He kept an eye on this job even after he left Wisconsin. And I think he's exactly where he wants to be. And I think that's where the athletic department wants him too.
Luke Altmaier, 4 touchdown passes. The honors have been coming in. Big Ten co-offensive player of the week. He's on the Davey O'Brien grade 8 list. He's on the Manning Award star of the week. How fantastic was he in your thoughts just watching him on Friday?
Oh, he was great. I mean, he's been solid all year, but I mean, they were coming at him hard, pressure. Every time, if you go back, and I don't pretend to know all the details of how they grade quarterbacks, but all the key ones, how he performed under pressure, when he was in a hurry, when there was a blitz coming, whatever, when a play broke down, he graded out fantastic in all of those things. So, and he's really improved a lot. You got to remember, he didn't start a lot at Ole Miss. He was a backup here or there. So last year was his first year starting, and he struggled early. Has showed good arm, but he threw the 4 picks against Penn State a year ago in Champaign. But from that point on, he was really good until he got hurt late in the year when John Paddock came in at the end of the season and rallied the team to a win at Minnesota. But, he's got his second year now under Barry Lunny. I think they know each other better. I mean, hey, he's thrown 10 touchdowns and no interceptions in 4 games. And I can't think of even a close one yet on an interception. So he's been remarkable. And I think his confidence is really high, and the guys will tell you he can be even better.
Zakar Franklin dealing with a little bit of a leg issue. Has there been any update on his status?
I have not heard. I actually was not able to go to the press conference today. I was doing some traveling back from an event up in Minnesota, so I missed the press conference today. So to be honest, I just haven't really seen anything yet. But I think he was able to get back in the game the other night. We had 2 or 3 guys like that were out early and then came back. So hopefully he's good to go. But to be honest, I just haven't seen anything lately.
This upcoming game, it's obviously a tough one, going on the road to take on a Penn State team that's a top 10 team in the nation. It's going to take the same type of effort and even more than the team had against Nebraska.
Yeah, and it will. Oh, for sure. And Penn State is physical. They're tough. I think that their defense is very, very good. I think James Franklin, I think it's going to be a whiteout. And I've done a couple of games there when it's been a whiteout. It's an amazing atmosphere. But for Illinois, for as far as Illinois fans go, it's, hey, the team's not thinking this way, but fans are like, hey, let's just give it a shot. We're big underdogs. Let's go out there, and we won out there 2 years ago. So let's do it again. And, I think Penn State showed a little vulnerability in their game with Bowling Green. I mean, Bowling Green, I think, led at half in that game in Happy Valley. So, I think as far as Illinois fans are concerned, they're like, hey, just give it a shot. If we win it, fantastic. Obviously, 5-0. If we don't, we're 4-1 with a bye week, and then Purdue coming in a couple of weeks. So I think, but for the team, they feel like they can win it, and they feel like they can go out there and steal another one like they did 2 years ago.
Brian Barnhart is the fantastic voice of Illini Athletics. I'm sure it was just a blast calling that game on Friday. Brian, thanks so much for taking the time, and hopefully we can talk to you some more down the road as Illinois continues what looks to be a very, very good season.
Well, thanks, Matt. Keep up the great work, and anytime you want me, let me know.
Awesome. Very good. That's Brian Barnhart, the play-by-play voice for Illinois football, Illinois men's basketball. Just a fantastic win for Illinois football on Friday night. Nobody's calling the win for Mizzou on Saturday against Vanderbilt fantastic, but a win is a win is a win. A win actually dropped them a little bit in the rankings. Did we learn anything? Like, should we be worried that they allowed Vanderbilt to play them tough and go to overtime? Or is this one of those games that you have every year? And if you can win it, you take it and you move forward. Eli Hoff, who covers the Tigers for the Post-Dispatch and STL Today, he joins us next on a Gray Bar Sports Open Line on KMOX.
He's a Hall of Fame sports columnist, talk show host, podcaster, and now he's back on KMOX. The Big Dog, Bernie Miklasz.
The 99 Rams thing was 100% unexpected. It goes in the annals of the greatest single seasons in terms of busting all the expectations that I've ever seen.
Get ready for insights, informed opinions, and the legendary voice you know and love. The Big Dog is back. Bernie Miklasz on America's Sports Voice, KMOX.
Celebrate the month of September with Zero Res. Buy 2 rooms clean, get 2 rooms free. Book online at ZeroResSTL.com and take advantage of these huge savings. Spell it forward or spell it backwards, it's the same. Zero Res.
Whether you own a local business or a global one, you know that these days, generating growth is a challenge. By teaming with Bank of America, you'll not just stay ahead of the curve, you'll move it. With access to experts, award-winning insights, and business solutions so powerful, you'll make every move matter, locally and globally. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Copyright 2024 Bank of America N.A.
Mom, meet Sarah.
From first-time Nana moments.
Yeah, welcome to Flight 101.
To annual girls trip moments. Your can't-miss moments are worth protecting against RSV. If you're 75 or older or 60 plus with a chronic condition like asthma, COPD, heart disease, or severe diabetes, you're at higher risk of landing in the hospital from RSV. And there are no prescription RSV treatments. Check eligibility and schedule your RSV vaccine at vaxassist.com.
So where should we go next?
Sponsored by Pfizer.
Indoor air quality is so important, especially in the fall and winter months. Comfort Solutions Heating and Cooling has UV air scrubbers and whole house air purifiers. These solutions can eliminate invisible airborne particles, whether they're allergens and pollen, pet dander. The air purifiers can disinfect the air by destroying bacteria and viruses. They also can eliminate odors. Call Comfort Solutions Heating and Cooling to improve your air quality today. And don't forget about the $89 maintenance special. ComfortSolutionsSTL.com.
Buying a home is one of the biggest financial decisions you'll ever make. Before you tour a home, the real estate professional you're working with may ask you to sign a buyer's agreement, which describes the services you'll receive, each party's role and responsibilities, and how your agent will be compensated, all of which you'll want to discuss with them up front. So work with an agent who's a Realtor. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors with a duty to honestly represent you and put your interests above their own, because that's who we are.
Paul's new drone startup just lost its most genius computer scientist.
We just lost our best genius to some new genius who's got a genius new idea. I'm going to have to find a new genius or two half geniuses and fast.
He needs a computer scientist that can keep his startup from falling down.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job on Indeed, it's easier for talented candidates to find it, which makes it easier for you to hire them. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Before you sell your home, consider your options. This is Debbie Monterey, and for years I've been telling you about St. Louis's real estate expert Gloria Liu, owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Gloria is an expert in selling homes for the most money because she has the guarantees, the buyers, and different solutions for every type of seller. She recently provided a family multiple cash offers in minutes so they could move quickly with no showings, no costly repairs, no hassles. Not everyone is looking for multiple cash offers. That's why Gloria will sell your home at your agreed upon price, or she'll buy it. Her name says it all. Your Home Sold Guaranteed. Regardless of whether you're looking for multiple cash offers or you want to use her Guaranteed Sold program to ensure you get the most money possible, call the agent I would trust to sell my home, Gloria Liu, at 314-325-6888. That's 314-325-6888. Or find her online at gloriahasthebuyers.com. Conditions apply. Gloria and seller must agree on price and possession date.
You're in hot water, mister.
What'd I do?
I told you months ago our utility bills were getting higher because of that old outdated tank water heater.
Maybe it's time we finally switch to a Navien tankless.
Learn about Navien's high-efficiency tankless water heaters, endless hot water, all while helping you save on your energy costs.
Hey, look at this. Our utility bill is lower since we got the Navien tankless water heater.
Who's in hot water now?
We are, all the time.
Learn more at tanklessmadesimple.com.
Retirement can be scary, but only if you're not prepared. That's why AARP created thisispretirement.org. Because unless you've already retired, you're in pretirement and you still have time to plan. Learn about retirement savings options, potential tax breaks, and how you can build savings over time. Visit thisispretirement.org for free resources to help you customize your action plan and feel the retirement fear disappear. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Bernie Nicholas joins the Chris and Amy Show, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 11:35 on the Voice of St. Louis, KMOX.
Look, at the end of the day, we're a group of guys, a group of team that's really tough, really resilient, found a way to win. It's not about how you win. It's about that you do win.
That's Missouri football coach Eli Drinkwitz speaking with Tom Ackerman on Sports on a Sunday morning yesterday. Welcome back in. It's a Gray Bar Sports Open Line right here on KMOX. We just talked a little Fighting Illini football. I think Illini fans are probably a little bit more happy with the way their weekend went than the way Mizzou fans are. But you know what? A win is a win. And right now, let's bring in Eli Hoff. He covers the Tigers for STL Today and the Post-Dispatch. Eli, I appreciate you taking some time with us today. How are you?
Doing well. How are you doing?
Doing all right. So what is it? Is this is there reasons to be concerned about their performance, or is this just, you know what, during the course of a football season, sometimes you have a little bit of a dud, and if you can win it, you just take the win and you go forward?
Well, I think it's fair to say there are reasons to be concerned. Obviously, at the end of the day, like that soundbite from Coach Drinkwitz said, a win is a win, 4-0 is 4-0, and Mizzou needs to continue racking up wins to do what it wants to do this year. But certainly some concerns, at a minimum, questions that can be raised about what that Vanderbilt game was and what this team will look like going forward. And Mizzou has a week off to answer some of those internally, and then a tough test across the month of October when it comes to answering those questions on deck.
Yeah, it's not just the Vanderbilt win, because the week before, and admittedly Boston College is a good team, but there were certainly some things that happened during the BC game that I think worried Mizzou fans. And then you follow that up with the Vanderbilt performance. Not just Vanderbilt, but these last 2 weeks, do you look at that and say, okay, there are some things that got to get figured out here?
Yeah, I think you certainly can, because the things that maybe are good enough against a team like Boston College or a team like Vanderbilt probably won't be good enough on the road in Tuscaloosa or even on the road in College Station in a few weeks' time. So those are things that probably do need to be cleaned up. But I don't think it would be fair to expect Mizzou to be playing perfect football 4 weeks into the season. I don't think it'd be fair to expect any team to be doing that. So it's a challenging kind of duality of just results like Mizzou has had and the expectations that Mizzou has for what the rest of this season will entail. And there is some potential precedent for this. You think back to what we were talking about with Mizzou last year after that Middle Tennessee game. Mizzou escaped in that one, granted a little less dramatic and not quite as close as this Vanderbilt one was, but that was a game that Mizzou didn't win as comfortably as folks wanted. And then by the end of the year, it was a pretty distant memory. So, Mizzou, I think, will be wanting to make that precedent. Obviously, that's to be determined at this point. But there is some history here that could factor in.
The run game was obviously very good today. The SEC announcing Nate Noel as the co-offensive player of the week. He ran for almost 200 yards. That was something that I know Tigers fans can be happy about.
Oh, absolutely. Just that's an undeniable positive, especially the way he's doing it too. That outside zone scheme that this team just loves to lean on in the run game. It's working fantastically for Nate Noel. That's almost all of his runs are zone runs versus gap runs. And anytime you have a running back closing in on 200 yards and setting career highs, that's going to be a great thing. And it's been encouraging, I think, for Mizzou to see that it does have a clear option at running back that it can go with. I know replacing Cody Schrader was something that a lot of people, were concerned about going into the season, and that was a fair concern. Again, it's early, but these last two games, the Nate Noel emergence, that could be one concern that can be taken off the list just based on how he's played these last couple of games.
The fact that the game did feature some mental mistakes, penalties, things like that seems very fixable. And there's some things that may not be quite as fixable, but as frustrating as mental mistakes can be, is that one area where you would think the program feels confident that that's going to get better?
Yeah, I think so. And in all honesty, you can look at Coach Drinkwitz for some of that. His clock management at the end of the first half gave Vanderbilt 3 free points with that field goal before halftime. And I think his clock management was suboptimal at the end of the game too. And that's not me taking shots. He admitted that after the game and said the team bailed him out. And so, that's something that has to start with him, because he only has so much credibility to harp on other players for their mental mistakes when he's messing up the clock management part, which is his primary focus, primary objective. So those are things that certainly can be cleaned up, especially in a bye week. Fantastic timing for a bye week for Mizzou right now, and I imagine that'll be some of the emphasis when they're on the practice field this week.
Blake Craig hit the big 37-yarder there in the second overtime, which is the difference in the game, but he also had 3 missed field goals in regulation. Do you expect them to look around the roster and see if they have any other options, or is this Craig's job, and is there still confidence that he's going to be the guy?
It's Craig's job. They have another option on the roster in Nick Quadrini, who's the backup kicker if they really needed to go that route. But they won't be looking there at this point. They're instead going to be focusing on, what do we need to do to get Blake Craig's confidence up, or just, keep it at the level it needs to be through this stretch. There's no doubt that he has the talent to make big kicks. He made that one in overtime. He's now made 2 over 50 yards. And you can tell on some of those makes that he has the leg that he can hit from 55 plus. He could probably hit from 60 in some situations. It's just about the consistency and the confidence. They'll be helped. I was talking to Harrison Mevis last week, and he's still around Columbia and around the facility. So I think he's someone who can give some just kind of informal, I've been in your shoes advice to Blake Craig. But these are Craig's first games as a collegiate kicker. I think some growing pains are to be expected. Just, 3 missed field goals is a lot to stack up at one game.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Eli Hoff for the Post-Dispatch and STL Today continuing to join us here on a Gray Bar Sports Open Line. They drop in the polls, drop 4 spots to number 11 in the AP poll. They dropped 3 spots also to number 11 in the coaches poll. I didn't have a problem with that. We've seen that a lot already this year. There's been a bunch of teams that have had either wins against lesser teams and even some one-sided wins, and it hasn't been enough with because of some better performances out there. Did you expect that? Do you take any issue with the way the rankings went?
Yeah, I expected them to fall after that game because it's a win that really doesn't feel like a win to I think anybody who watched it or who was part of it. So I think a drop was to be expected. 4 spots is a little drastic when you look at it as they did still win the game. But also I think it's tough for anyone to really argue Mizzou is a top 10 team based on these 4 games. And so Mizzou could certainly wind up being a top 10 team, could wind up moving up more. There will be more movement in the polls as some of these top 10 teams start playing each other. And that could play to Mizzou's favor. But, I think at this point, for fans who are worked up about the AP poll, there are better things or more important things to worry about. One, the CFP rankings are what will determine a spot in the college football playoff, and those are still more than a month away at this point. And there are reasons why Mizzou dropped out of the top 10, and I think those are the things to be worried about more than what the coaches or the national media think about this team.
You look at the schedule in the game, not that they can't lose to anybody. Anybody can beat anybody on any given weekend, but the 3 ranked opponents that they still have on the schedule: Texas A&M on October 5th, Alabama, who's ranked number 4 right now, October 26th, and then they're going to match up against Oklahoma on November 9th, a couple weeks later. It seems like the schedule works out, though. Either it's a bye week or maybe a lesser opponent going into some of those games where they're going to be set up and having some good preparation time for these probably 3 games that really make or break their opportunity to have the kind of season they'd like to have.
Oh, exactly. The one thing that has not changed at all at this point is that Mizzou has a favorable schedule, and frankly, I'd argue there are parts of it that have gotten more favorable. Texas A&M, at this point in time, it's still 2 weeks away, but I'm not for sure who A&M is going to be trotting out at quarterback there. Mm-hmm. Same is true for when Auburn comes to town. And Oklahoma, some of Mizzou's future opponents are just now having quarterback competitions pop up mid-season. So it looks like the Tigers could be catching these teams at a good time. Obviously, road environments are always going to be tough. And like you said, anybody can have a bad day. Anybody can have a great day. I think after what happened this weekend, Mizzou won't be taking any opponents lightly, but certainly still favorable. There's a very clear path to 10 wins, still a path to 11 wins on the schedule. That part has not changed whatsoever.
I did not have Jackson Arnold at Oklahoma being benched on my college football bingo card for this year.
No, I did not either, and I'm bummed I didn't get to watch much of that game. Just the way it lined up, I was in the Mizzou press conference and writing afterwards. But sounds like it was as eventful as advertised in Norman, and maybe not to the benefit of the home team there.
To me, it's going to continue to be very interesting to watch Oklahoma and Texas and how they handle this league for the first time. And obviously Texas is the number 1 team in the nation, according to one poll, and they should be able to handle it maybe a little bit better. But this is a beast that is the SEC, that when programs come in, and Missouri has experienced this, it's not always easy that first time through.
No, it really isn't. And they're going to learn that, Texas, that time will come at some point here. I'm excited for when they play Georgia later this year. And that's one of the things that is exciting about the SEC this year. There are really 7 teams that through this point in the season are making legitimate cases for being in the college football playoff. And Texas is among them. I don't think at this point Oklahoma is. But you look at the schedule too. Oklahoma just has an absolute gauntlet of a schedule this year. Texas is a little more favorable, but even then, Texas A&M on the back end of the regular season should be an entertaining game. So, we're watching those 2 teams adjust and adjust while still having high expectations has been a really fun way to watch this SEC season so far.
Greg Sankey can be getting his comments ready leading into the final college football playoff rankings on just how many SEC teams should be in the playoff, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think he'll have to be lobbying for more than he can count on one hand.
Yep,
so we'll see how that goes.
Well, Eli, we encourage everybody to read you in the Post-Dispatch, stltoday.com, on Twitter @by Eli Hoff. Appreciate the time, and hopefully we can catch up again down the line.
For sure. Always happy to chat.
Awesome. Thank you. That's Eli Hoff from the Post-Dispatch and STL Today joining us. We will take a break. And when we come back, we'll wrap up hour number 1. In hour number 2, don't forget all Cardinals baseball in the second hour of the program, including listening back to some interesting things that John Mozeliak said here on KMOX yesterday, Tom Ackerman, also the comments made by Wilson Contreras and Nolan Arenado in the Cardinals clubhouse yesterday. We'll get into all of that coming up. It's Graybar Sports Open Line on KMOX.
Brian.
Yes, Sarah?
What is the point of making junk disappear?
We make space for possibility.
Oh, that's huge.
Why do people want junk to disappear?
To make space for possibility.
And who gives them this new space?
We do.
And how do we do it?
We make junk disappear.
And what does a person need to do to make all this happen?
All you have to do is point.
We make space for possibility.
We make space for possibility.
Call 1-800-GOT-JUNK
or visit 1-800-GOT-JUNK.com.
It's a night to be entertained and inspired. The Musial Awards return to Stiefel Theater Saturday, November 23rd. You can be in the audience for this nationally televised event hosted right here in St. Louis. Named for Stan the Man, the show celebrates the year's greatest moments of sportsmanship and those who embody class and character. Experience the extraordinary moments and people that make the Musial Awards an event like no other. The Musial Awards, presented by Maryville University. Saturday, November 23rd. Tickets at museilawards.com.
Odyssey's I'm Listening is our commitment to more mental health conversations. Cowboys QB Dak Prescott wants everyone to talk about their mental health.
I think the more and more that we can continue to talk and allow people to understand that it's okay to ask for help, the more people get help, the more I think that we'll be able to provide with resources.
Talk saves lives. For more mental health conversations, visit imlistening.org.
Sponsored by Compass Health Network. Inspire hope. Promote wellness.
When you enter a place of business, you're owed a legal duty that the place of business is safe for you to shop in. I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. If you suffered an injury at a place of business, our duty is to protect you after that harm. Morgan & Morgan, for the people.
How could they make things even more tempting at Genesis of St. Charles? How about 0% financing through the end of September? Choose from the area's largest selection of Genesis sedans and SUVs and get 0% financing. Just head to Genesis of St. Charles. Check out the selection and their beautiful state-of-the-art showroom. Once you get behind the wheel of a Genesis, you're going to want one. Take advantage of 0% financing. They're just a quarter-mile east of Mid-Rivers Mall Drive off 70, or check out their selection at genesisofstcharles.com.
I'm Tom Ackerman with this month's Seidman Cancer Center Spotlight. The director of Seidman Cancer Center, Dr. Tim Eberlein.
The new building is going to be focused on clinical care and accrual to clinical trials, and it'll integrate radiology evaluation of patients.
Special thanks to Seidman Cancer Center, national leaders in cancer. For more information, go to seidman.wustl.edu.
St. Louis City SC is turning up the heat at the club's free pre-match city block party, starting at 4 p.m. on Saturday, September 28th, all before kickoff against rival Sporting KC. Come out to Lou Fuse Plaza, located steps from City Park, for live music from Tef Poe, Strings EMB, Darkwood, and others. Get special rivalry match merchandise and enjoy local food and drinks, games, giveaways, and so much more. For all the details, visit stlcitysc.com. We've got the sauce. Pour it on, St. Louis.
Do you have 3 ex-wives and your current trophy wife wants a life insurance policy 3 times the size of the policies you had to purchase for your previous mistakes? If so, you need to call Big Lou at Term Provider, 800-511-3535. Big Lou is intimately familiar with your problems, and if you're 50 or 60 years old and in reasonably good health, a $1 million policy should only cost about $100 to $200 per month. Big Lou may have a solution for your previous policies as well. You may even save enough money to lighten the load on your new $1 million policy. Remember, call Big Lou. He's like you, except he's only on number 2. Call Term Provider, 800-511-3535. That's 800-511-3535. For $1 million in term life insurance that you can live with, call Big Lou at 800-511-3535.
It's Tom Ackerman for Ophthalmology Associates, the doctor's doctors, 314-966-5000, or online at youridoc.com.
Rattler Pest Solutions has been growing since 1956. We're driven to assist our customers and have fun doing it.
I believe in them, and I know that if there's a problem, they're going to solve it.
For quick, proven pest solutions, call Rattler.
At Odyssey, we believe in casting a wide net to create a diverse and inclusive workforce, as we value the power of community and encourage local organizations to help us in referring qualified applicants to our stations. If you're a community organization interested in receiving our vacancy information, simply email equalemployment@odyssey.com. You'll be directly notified of our open positions. Again, that's equalemployment@odyssey.com. And for our listeners, we invite you to visit odysseyinc.com/careers. There, you'll find an online listing of job openings at all Odyssey radio stations.
Welcome back to the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. Once again, Matt Pauley on KMOX.
Back at it on the Gray Bar Sports Open Line right here on KMOX. My name is Matt Pauley as we start to wrap up hour number 1 of the program. Hour number 2, it's a strike zone hour. We'll do nothing but Cardinals as we're going to listen back to a little bit of what John Mozeliak had to say yesterday to Tom Ackerman during Sports on a Sunday morning. At the end of the conversation, Tom asked a few questions that are kind of connected to the future, John Mozeliak's future, the future of people in the front office, the future of Oliver Marmol as well. And Mo is not going to overtly give anything away, but I think you can listen to his answers and maybe try to read between the lines a little bit. So we're going to do that together coming up a little bit after the 7 o'clock news. And then also we're going to play back what Wilson Contreras and Nolan Arenado had to say inside of the Cardinals clubhouse yesterday, which was notable. There's been a lot of talk about the comments that Contreras made. Basically, I don't want to say calling out the front office. I feel like that's too strong, but asking forcefully for the front office to make some changes to the team going into next season. I am so intrigued by what's going to happen with this team going into next year, because in many ways they're kind of landlocked in certain areas where they need to be better. They need to be better at the top of the starting rotation. Well, for next season, you have Sonny Gray, Eric Fetty, Andre Palante, Miles Michaelis, Steven Matz, all on the roster. You have Michael McGreevy and Gordon Graceffo as guys who you would love to see them get some sort of opportunity to compete for a job in spring training. You got Quinn Matthews, who's going to be showing up sooner than later, who zipped through all 4 levels of the minor leagues this year. It's not going to be easy. And that's not me saying they shouldn't add to the rotation. They absolutely should. They need more at the top of the rotation. But it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy to pull it off. What do they do to become a better offensive club? There's guys who how much can you rely on Jordan Walker going into next year? How much can you rely on Nolan Gorman going into next year? Guys who were expected to be middle of the order run producers, who those guys still have that ability inside of them, but they haven't shown it this year. So you can't go make these signings just to have insurance policies for them, because what if they do get things going? And I guess it's a good problem to have, but it's just, man, oh man, are there questions going into next season? And this is going to be a very, very intriguing offseason. Of course, regular season's not over. Still a week's worth of baseball. They open up a series against the Rockies tomorrow. And of course, we'll have that for you right here on KMOX. But yeah, it's a strike zone hour. Next hour, we'll do nothing but Cardinals baseball. But we'll take a break right now, and I'll be back with you after the 7 o'clock news. It's Gray Bar Sports Open Line on KMOX.
Tired of hearing scary ads about the IRS? Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. We may be able to significantly reduce and even eliminate what you owe to the IRS. Taxpayers should know. Huge savings are now being made available through the Fresh Start program that can drastically reduce the amount you will owe if you qualify. Even if you haven't filed your taxes in years or are facing wage garnishment, liens, levies, or under audit, we can help. We've earned over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today. To see what savings you may qualify for, visit us online at TRA.com or call us at 800-511-0379, 800-511-0379. Again, that's 800-511-0379. Tax Relief Advocates, real solutions, for real people.
Tom Ackerman for Busey Bank and Building Community. Our partner, Love You to Pieces, is filling a gap in the autism community. The nonprofit supports neurodiverse children and teens with disabilities that impact social skills. Love You to Pieces gives these youth a chance to grow their confidence in small group settings that they will take to the larger community. Find them at loveyoutopieces.com. That's love, the letter U, number 2, pieces.com.
When it comes to building community, it's not as easy for some of us. This is Pat Buring, Executive Vice President of Busey Bank. That's why I'm proud to recognize Love You to Pieces. The support they give to children and teens who are seeking opportunities to build friendship goes a long way to make our greater community stronger. That's what building a community is all about. Join Busey. Get involved as we continue building the communities we call home.
What's it going to take for you to realize the IRS is in full-blown attack mode, and if you have IRS issues, your timely response is critical? Hi, this is Lance Drury with the Lance Drury Law Firm. We certainly know the IRS has ramped up efforts because we're seeing a lot more clients with threats of intents to seize property or levy rights to property. If you have IRS issues, call the Lance Drury Firm today. Today, don't wait. Those IRS notices have hard deadlines for exercising your appeal rights. If you miss the deadline, your rights to a legal appeal are gone. Let the Lance Drury Law Firm get between you and the IRS today, and we'll help you manage your case to achieve the best outcome. IRS problems are serious legal matters, so call Lance Drury Law Firm, located right here in St. Louis. Don't wait. Call 314-260-6120. That's 314-260-6120, and schedule your free consultation with me, Lance Drury, or visit DRURYlaw.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
KMOX KECK HD2 St. Louis.
The legendary voice of St. Louis. This is KMOX, always live on the free Odyssey app.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by O'Reilly Auto Parts.
I'm Jennifer Kuiper. Missouri's top court and governor have each rejected requests to cancel a Missouri man's scheduled lethal injection. Marcellus Williams is set to be executed at 6 p.m. tomorrow for the 1998 murder of Leisha Gale during a home burglary. She was a social worker and former newspaper reporter. An attorney for Williams had argued that the state Supreme Court should stop the lethal injection because a trial attorney prevented a black man who he thought looked similar to the defendant from serving on the jury, but the court rejected that argument. Missouri Governor Mike Parson has also rejected Williams' clemency request.
We went through this process time and time again, and we pretty well know how this is all going to work out. So we just stay focused on what's right, and then we make the decision.
Williams can still appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. The Pentagon says more U.S. troops are being sent to the Middle East after the deadliest day of fighting between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon since 2006. Officials in Lebanon say Israeli strikes killed nearly 500 people today. CBS's Chris Livesay in Tel Aviv.
Israel's government is warning civilians to flee from buildings used by the U.S. designated terror group.
It placed rockets in your living rooms and missiles in your garage. Those rockets and missiles are aimed directly at our cities, directly at our citizens.
By the many thousands, Lebanese motorists clogged the highways to escape. Hezbollah exchanged fire of its own, albeit a fraction of the Israeli onslaught. There were no reports of Israeli deaths.
Bail is denied for the suspect in an apparent assassination attempt against former President Donald Trump earlier this month in Florida. CBS's Manuel Bojorquez with more.
The only charges right now against this suspect, Ryan Ruth, are federal gun charges for possessing a firearm as a convicted felon. What we learned today in court is that prosecutors will also seek to get a grand jury to indict him on an other heavier charge, really, which is the attempted assassination of a political figure.
Some foreign actors are accused of doing what they can to sway the presidential election here in the U.S. CBS's Matt Piper with details.
An official with the Office of the Director of National Intelligence says Russia has created more artificial intelligence to influence this year's presidential election than any other foreign power. They say it's Russia's effort to boost GOP candidate Donald Trump over Democrat Kamala Harris. The U.S. official says Moscow's attempts are also aimed at denigrating the Democratic Party as a whole, including through conspiracy theories that rapidly spread online.
Japan has issued a tsunami alert. The U.S. Geological Survey says it was issued after a 5.6 magnitude earthquake near Japan's Izu Islands, which are remote islands south of Tokyo. This is CBS News.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get the parts and service you need fast from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
We have rain and 69 degrees downtown of the Arch. I'm Maria Aquina. Our top story this hour, as you just heard on CBS News, Governor Mike Parson confirming that the state of Missouri will carry out the execution of Marcellus Williams tomorrow evening as ordered by the Missouri Supreme Court. Williams was identified as a suspect after he was arrested for a string of robberies in the St. Louis area. Now, the only last chance for Marcellus Williams to see another day is for the U.S. Supreme Court to step in. Barring any last-minute decision by the Supreme Court, Governor Parson says he will not grant clemency.
Numerous times where they've had different things that they brought up, trying to make sure everything was correct. But again, every process always comes back to where it all began, and he was issued a death sentence many years ago, and our job is to execute that when the time comes.
Williams was found guilty of killing a Post-Dispatch reporter, Alicia Gale, back in 1998. His execution is scheduled for 6 o'clock tomorrow evening. The driver who struck and killed a St. Louis police officer, David Lee, now charged with a DWI, speeding and driving without a valid license.
The suspect, 24-year-old Ramon Chavez Rodriguez, is not a citizen of the United States. He's from Honduras. St. Louis Circuit Attorney Gabe Gord says the suspect's immigration status is mostly not relevant to the charges.
It has no impact on the charges, on the charging decision. It does have an impact on our assessment as to whether or not he's an individual who is a flight risk or poses a danger to the community, and whether or not he's someone who should receive a bond.
No bond was given to Chavez Rodriguez. St. Louis City Police Chief Robert Tracy says anything dealing with his immigration status will now be handled by federal authorities. Stuart McMillan, KMOX News.
One charge against Bar PM owner Chad Morris has been dropped by the St. Louis Circuit Attorney's Office. Morris was charged with assaulting an officer, allegedly after police crashed into his bar in December. Morris attorney Javad Kazali says they were initially led to believe that the entire case was dropped, only to learn that it was the resisting arrest charge that was dropped.
Apparently, there's some new strategy from the Circuit Attorney's Office that we're trying to figure out. What should have happened today was this criminal case should have ended.
Kazali believes this shift might be a play to prevent the St. Louis Police Department from being compelled to give further documentation about the arresting officer's disciplinary history. At 7:05, we get a check of our forecast with Dave Murray.
Cool and wet times continue as we go through our evening and definitely during the overnight hours. Very wet stretch over the last 48 hours, busting our drought. Periods of rain and a couple of non-severe thunderstorms overnight tonight. Now, that'll be kind of developing as we go through the evening. Some heavy rain possible overnight again. 62 for the low, evening temperatures hanging around 70. Tuesday, a couple of leftover showers first thing in the morning. Then we will slowly start to clear out. Going to be optimistic, call it a mix of clouds and sunshine going through Tuesday afternoon, 72 degrees. Tuesday night, partly cloudy, 59. All is quiet. Wednesday, a spectacular day. Lots of sunshine and nice, 76 degrees. Wednesday night, partly cloudy, 62. Thursday, more and more clouds taking over with developing showers and a couple of thunderstorms as we go through the day on Thursday, 75 degrees. We have the shot, and it is a shot right now, of a tropical system that is going to be taking hold of our weather for Thursday afternoon, Thursday night, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's a very unusual situation, and boy, there's a lot of moving parts to the forecast, so let's stay up to date. I'm meteorologist Dave Murray for the Voice of St. Louis, KMOX.
We have a pretty good-sized thunder boomer downtown right now. It's storming around the area. St. Peter's reporting storms in 69 degrees in Florissant, and downtown at the Arch, we have a thunderstorm and 69 degrees. I'm Maria Aquina, KMOX News.
The following is a special KMOX sports presentation. Welcome to the Strike Zone on KMOX. Presented by Gray Bar. Gray Bar, your distributor for electrical and datacom needs.
Welcome back in. It is a Gray Bar Sports Open Line right here on KMOX. My name is Matt Pauley. Not only is it a Gray Bar Sports Open Line, it is also a Strike Zone hour which is also brought to you by Gray Bar, who we certainly appreciate in a very, very big way. What's on Deck is sponsored by Chesterfield Fence and Deck, the sign you have the very best. Cardinals are going into their final week of the season. They're going to play 3 in Denver against the Rockies, and then they'll wrap up the season by playing the Giants in San Francisco for a weekend series that begins on Friday. As far as the Rockies series goes, we'll have night games tomorrow and on Wednesday, and then an afternoon game coming up on Thursday. So we'll do a little bit of Sports Open Line. We'll do like 45 minutes of Sports Open Line the next 2 nights before we get into Cardinals coverage. Really 3 things I want to do here this hour. Want to go through some things that John Mozeliak said to Tom Ackerman yesterday during Sports on a Sunday morning. Want to talk with Bryan Kennedy from Channel 4. He's going to join us in about 10 minutes. And I also want to play for you some of what was said inside the Cardinals clubhouse yesterday from Nolan Arenado and Wilson Contreras. So we're going to start with that as we'll play back some of what was said. What really got the headlines was what Wilson Contreras said. So we'll get to that in a second. Let's start with Nolan Arenado. And he essentially said that he feels like the team absolutely does need some help going into next season.
I mean, listen, Art, we're going to probably need some help. I mean, it's just the numbers are saying it. And I know, like I said, I keep pointing back to myself and got to play better. And I think I can help this team more. But our ballpark, you don't necessarily get rewarded for hitting the ball good, and that's always tough. And when we have a young team like we do, it's not easy. So I think we're all open to a little help. That'd be great. So I don't know if that's gonna happen, and if it doesn't, it is what it is. We just gotta continue to find ways to get better, and I think we will.
I have no problem with what Nolan said right there. I feel like the first thing he said was look at himself, that he can do more, that he feels like he's got the opportunity to play better. And no matter what else happens as we continue, no matter how else we look back at this season, I think we will always look at it as a season where the Cardinals did not get the production that they expected to get from Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt. And in a year where offensively it just didn't happen for them, that they were the leading culprits for it. Now that being said, Arenado didn't have a terrible season. He didn't drive the ball. He didn't hit for extra bases the way we're used to him doing, but his numbers weren't terrible. His actually hitting with runners in scoring position, he was among the best on the team. And I think it didn't always feel that way with him, but the numbers are what the numbers are. Paul Goldschmidt was okay, was pretty good, above average from July 1st on, but the numbers, they were so rough going into July 1st. Even with everything he did from July 1st on, he was never able to really bring the numbers up to where it was going to be a very, very respectable season for him. So there's reasons to be somewhat optimistic about Nolan Arenado moving forward. There's reasons to think that Paul Goldschmidt could have a bounce back if he ends up back with the Cardinals next year, which doesn't seem overly likely at this point, but also something that is not an impossibility. All right, let's get into what Wilson Contreras said, because this is what really caught people's attention. This audio is courtesy of STL Today and the Post-Dispatch. So a few things I want to play for you. First off, we'll start with Contreras talking about the team's offensive struggles.
We just never came out as an offense. I think everybody has their own plan, which is good. But we didn't execute at all. Like, if you look at our stats, there's going to be a lot of inconsistencies 1 through 9, and a big part of that. And we just need to be better for next year, control the strike zone. Do not try to do too much with a big spot, and then just try to make more contact than we did this year.
So I agree 100% with what Contreras said there. Have no issues with it. What he said there was kind of common sense. It was not a very good offensive season. 1 through 9, you just didn't get what you wanted. Maybe 2 through 9. I think they got a really good season out of Mason Wynn offensively. He was as consistent of a player as they had on the roster. You had moments from other guys, like Alec Burleson had a good, not great season. And then a lot of guys had average seasons or below average seasons. That's just the way it went. Offensively, they have to be better, and Contreras knows that, and everybody watches this team and covers this team knows that. So It was after that things got a little bit more interesting. Contreras says that it absolutely has to be better, and the future needs to be better for this club.
But there's some areas that you need to be addressed to. I don't know if the front office is going to, but like I said before, we didn't come as an offense at all during the whole year. There's a lot of holes throughout the lineup from 1 to 9. And the only thing that we can control is show up next year and keep working. But as an organization, I think the Cardinals are one of the biggest organizations in baseball. And if I was them, if I was the front office, I'd be hungry to own this division. But we haven't owned this division in the last 2 years.
If I was the front office, I would be eager to own this division, but you haven't done that in 2 years. Essentially what Wilson Contreras said right there. And he talked about the struggles 1 through 9. And when he talked about the struggles 1 through 9, talking about offensively, that was fine. When as the conversation moved, in many ways, it felt like he was starting to more take issue with the way the roster was put together. So a byproduct of that was he's being critical of his teammates. He was being critical of the roster that was put together. Now, it's a whole lot easier to say that when he said it yesterday. He's not on the road with the team. He's not going to see this version of the team for a while. But I'm sure some people would listen to that, see that, and kind of shake their head, especially from a guy who, when he was on the field, he absolutely did contribute. His numbers were as good as anybody's numbers offensively, but he just couldn't stay on the field this year. He absolutely was injured, and I think some people took a double take that some of these things were being said. So he was asked specifically if he was the one making the decisions, what areas of need would he address?
That's a good question for the front office to ask, to answer. I'm not gonna answer that question, but I think if you look at the numbers as an offense, you'll notice what's been missing. And but as a group, we need to make an adjustment for next year for sure.
So basically, he said right there, he's not going to answer the question, but all you got to do is go look at the numbers. And sure, I mean, you can very easily go look at the positions where you were not getting the offense that you were expecting to get this year. First and third are two of those spots with Goldschmidt and Arenado, but right field is certainly that because you didn't get what you expected from Jordan Walker. Second base is that. Not that second base is generally a big-time offensive position, but this team was counting on Nolan Gorman to be a 30 home run type guy, and he wasn't that. And he started on that pace from a home run standpoint, but still struck out a lot, didn't have a high average, and eventually the home runs kind of dissipated as well, and he had a tough finish to his season. So the bottom line for Contreras, it absolutely has to be better next season.
We cannot be okay with these results again. I know it might be better than last year, but if we look at the Cardinals as an organization, it's a huge organization for the MLB, so we should be hungry to be on top of this NL Central, and we haven't done that in the last 2 years.
Yeah, look, I don't have any issue with what he said right there either, where he says it has to be better. And yes, it was a little bit better this year compared to last year, but it's not where it needs to be. When he signed to become a member of the St. Louis Cardinals, he did not come to be on a team that doesn't get to the postseason, and now this is back-to-back seasons where he is not in the postseason. So, again, people took note of what he had to say. I think people took note because you generally don't hear those type of things from players. Contreras isn't exactly a guy who's going to hold his tongue. He's fiery. He's going to say what he's thinking. That can be a very good thing. In some ways, it can be a little bit uncomfortable when he is, in many ways, being critical of his teammates. But at the same time, we're right at the end of the season. And I do think the organization is well aware that they can't just run back this group again next season and expect a different set of results, for sure. All right, Bryan Kennedy is going to join us coming up in just a moment. He is from Channel 4. We'll get his take on those comments that were made and where the Cardinals do go from here. We might talk a little Mizzou football with him as well. Channel 4 has been a big part of Mizzou coverage this year with their pre- and post coverage on their new channel. So Bryan's going to join us in just a moment. It's a Strike Zone Hour, part of a Gray Bar Sports Open Line right here on KMOX.
What a great lineup at Chesterfield Fence and Deck. Fences, decks, pergolas, sunrooms, screen rooms, patios, and much more. They invite everyone to visit their extensive showroom located in Chesterfield with beautiful displays, free in-home estimates at no obligation, and free project design. It's Chesterfield Fence and Deck, the sign you have the very best. Mention me, Tom Ackerman, and receive 48 months interest-free financing. ChesterfieldFence.com.
It's not just about watching the game, it's about betting on it. I'm Mike Valeni, and on Cash the Ticket, Jim Costa and I break down every college football and NFL matchup like it's the last game we're ever going to watch. From the best bets to the sneaky underdogs, and of course, as my co-host likes to say, the value. And the one thing we're not going to do is pretend we're professionals. We have fun with it, it's an entertainment product, and it makes watching games a hell of a lot of fun. So Cash the Ticket, follow it in the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Sometimes life throws bold moments at you, like the moment you realize you left your debit card on the counter of that coffee shop yesterday. But that's okay. You bank with BOS. We give you the tools you need to meet these moments head on. You can instantly freeze your card from your smartphone, and we'll replace any lost or stolen cards fast so you don't miss a step. Are you ready for a better banking experience? Then make the bold move and switch to BOS today. Visit bankwithbos.com. Member FDIC.
Sweet chocolate reward. Sweet chocolate reward.
This is not just the sound of someone picking up a sweet treat at Walgreens. This is the sound of someone picking up a sweet treat right after receiving all their vaccines in one trip. This is the sound of treating yourself because you protected yourself.
Stop by or schedule both your flu and COVID-19 vaccines today and grab yourself a sweet treat while you're at it. Vaccine subject to availability. State, age, and health-related restrictions may apply.
I occasionally have nerve discomfort in my hands, so the things I love to do
Let's play something, Grandma.
became difficult as I got older.
If you have occasional stabbing and burning in your hands and feet, try Nervive Nerve Relief. Nervive's clinically studied dose of alpha-lipoic acid reduces occasional nerve discomfort in as little as 7 days with continued daily use. Say yes to healthy nerves with Nervive Nerve Relief. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Hey folks, this is Charlie Brennan. Have you noticed loose bricks or missing mortar around your house on the walls, patios, walkways, porch, or chimneys? If so, this might be a great time to call Morelli Tuck Pointing. What's tuck pointing? It's the removal of old mortar and the replacement of new mortar on a wall or chimney. Sometimes that mortar can become loose, missing, or deeply eroded. We've used the Morelli team to tuck point the Brennan home several times, and in fact, this winter, we noticed the bricks that line the ground near our porch in the backyard had gotten out of line and looked pretty cattywampus. One call, Morelli Tuck Pointing, the job was done. Morelli's the company that's won the Angie's List Super Service Award every year, back to back to back since 2005. Check out their reviews on the Google, Angie's List, and Better Business Bureau websites. The Masonry Specialists, 314-645-1387, MorelliTuckPointing.com.
It's a night to be entertained and inspired. The Musial Awards return to Stiefel Theater Saturday, November 23rd. You can be in the audience for this nationally televised event hosted right here in St. Louis. Named for Stan the Man, the show celebrates the year's greatest moments of sportsmanship and those who embody class and character. Experience the extraordinary moments and people that make the Musial Awards an event like no other. The Musial Awards, presented by Maryville University. Saturday, November 23rd. Tickets at MusialAwards.com.
Welcome back to the Strike Zone on KMOX. Presented by Gray Bar. Gray Bar, your distributor for electrical and datacom needs.
The Cardinals lead 2-1. Out hitting the Guardians 5-2. Here's Helsley with the 1-1 pitch. A swing and a high fly ball. Right center field. There's Ciani. He has it for a Redbird winner. And the Cardinals take 2 out of 3 from the Guardians. The Cardinals will set off the fireworks in downtown St. Louis to celebrate.
Now, setting off those fireworks for one final time here this season. They finish out the home portion of the schedule with a win against Cleveland yesterday, 2-1, taking 2 of 3 from a good Guardians team. Pretty solid final homestand for the team. They won 3 of 4 against the Pirates, and they take 2 of 3 from a good Cleveland team. It's a Gray Bar Sports Open Line here on KMOX. Very happy to welcome on to the program right now. You see him on Channel 4, First Alert for KMOV. He is Bryan Kennedy. You follow him on Twitter at BKennedyTV. Bryan, I always appreciate you spending some time with us today. How are you?
I'm doing great. Doing great. Thanks for having me on per usual. I always like coming on with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So what did you make of the comments that were made by Wilson Contreras yesterday, where in many ways he was calling on the front office to make moves? If you really got into what he said, in some ways it felt like he was being critical of some of his teammates, not by name, but kind of by position. And it just it was a little bit of a different comment than we're used to hearing out of that clubhouse.
Yeah, I think he must have said that when I walked off because I was in the clubhouse yesterday. I was like, man, when did he say that? I mean, it's also kind of true, right? I mean, the big question. I mean, when we came into the season, if you looked at the St. Louis Cardinals roster, you didn't say, oh, that's a Central leading team, right? You said that's maybe a playoff team, maybe if everything goes right. And here we are. Things didn't go right. Brewers are well ahead of everyone in the NL Central, and the Cards are far out of the wild card spot. So I think any fan that was being realistic with themselves will look at this roster and say it was never going to be a playoff team, right? And I think, the players can't do that. But if you look at it in hindsight, which Wilson is doing, he's saying this roster essentially was never constructed to be a winner. And if you want to say that's due to youth, you can say that because, but at the same time, Paul Goldschmidt, he'll admit he didn't have the season he wanted to have. And there were times where he was up in the ninth inning, bottom of the ninth, runners on, and he struck out too. So top to bottom, this team needed work. And I think Wilson, made a point that I think everyone, agrees with.
Yeah, the old ifs and buts were candies and nuts, we'd all have Merry Christmas type of way of looking at things. If this team would have gotten offensive production at a higher level from Goldschmidt and Arenado, even if they didn't, if they would have had a better 4-game series against the Cubs and a better 3-game series against Cincinnati in August, I think you could still squint and see a playoff team in there. To your point, though, the margin of error was just so small that it didn't take much to kind of knock them off the path of possibly being a playoff team.
What's crazy is if you remember in May, you were like, oh, they can do it, right? This team is legit. Like at one point they were in that wild card spot. It was theirs. And then just you hit August, September, and you just do an absolute nosedive. And once again, is that due to youth? Maybe. Is that also due to maybe guys, some of your older guys, Arenado and Goody, not being who they're supposed to be? Definitely possible. I think it's unfortunate because you have a lot of, bright spots in this team, whether it's Mason Wynn, Alec Burleson. I think going into the season, many people didn't know that would be your two best hitters, but here you are, and they were arguably the two most consistent guys you had on your roster, which may honestly ended up being a bad thing, because you probably would hope some other guys would have better seasons. It's just crazy how things can change in Major League Baseball. And I remember we're all during that time, you were like, this is not good, because they were playing really bad. They could not get a hit. Every night it was, 1 for 15, 1 for whatever for runners in scoring position, and they just could not score a run, even when they had good pitching, which was the biggest question going into the season.
You mentioned Alec Burleson, and I agree with you. He had a really nice season. But when you dive into his numbers, the righty-lefty splits, he was very splitty. He was not quite as much in the second half of the season, but that was an issue. You look at his month of September, he's hit 167. So we're talking about, I think Mason Wynn was the best hitter on the team. Nobody's going to argue that. But when we're talking about Alec Burleson, most people would look at him as being the second best hitter on the team. He had a month of September where he hits 167, and he's got a batting average of 195 against lefties. When that's your second best hitter, that's not good.
That's a problem, right?
Yeah.
That's a big problem. And it was funny the other day, I was like, man, I haven't heard Alec Burleson's name very much. I look at his numbers, I'm like, oh, that's why. Because he hasn't been hitting well. But this is his second, he's really his first full year in Major League Baseball. So can you blame him, right? Like, eventually you're going to have a downturn, because he's far and above a veteran. He was with the other young guys wearing a lederhosen in the clubhouse the other day. And it wasn't because he's a veteran, right? It's because he's one of the young guys on this team. So I can't even really fault him for having, a dip in the year that was arguably, one of the best on the team.
We're going to have tons of time to talk about the offseason, and there's still a week of regular season baseball left. So I don't want to go too far down that road quite yet. But we do look forward, and we see a team that, from a starting rotation standpoint, has Sonny Gray, Eric Fetty, Andre Palante, Miles Michaelis, Steven Matz, Michael McGreevy, Gordon Graceffo, all under contract. And you know that they need to add to the top of the rotation, which is easier said than done. You have huge question marks in Jordan Walker and Nolan Gorman, who you'd love for them to be able to step forward and take middle of the order run producing roles, but they didn't do that this year. So there's no guarantee that's going to happen next year. So you don't know where you go with that. Just feels like in so many ways, there's questions about next year's roster where you don't know if guys are going to take a step forward or not. So I don't know how you completely build the roster without maybe just completely moving on from some of these guys.
Right, because there's just so many question marks. It was funny. We ran some sound from Contreras on what I got from him on wanting to, be better. This year wasn't acceptable. And I was pulling highlights. And in some of the highlights, I think it was against the Nationals, was Nolan Gorman hitting home runs. I'm like, man, I forgot about that guy, right? Like they essentially sent him to AAA, and we haven't heard from him since. And going into the season, he was supposed to be one of your better hitters, right? He had some bright moments and then fell off, which I think is honestly could be the story for most of this team. But I think you have so many question marks because it comes down to development, right? Are these guys going to develop into the guys you want them to be, or are they going to take a step back? And when you're putting your, all of your eggs in a basket of, sign and develop or draft and develop, you're going to have these question mark seasons where, if you look at last year, we could be in the same boat, right? We could be in the same boat where you have a young team with younger players and they go on a run and then the bats just go completely quiet. It could happen again because, once again, I think the biggest question marks around this team is, will these guys continue to develop? Will Jordan Walker be the guy you want him to be? For the last, month or so, he's been killing the ball, right? Mason Wynn all season has been great, but you look at guys like Newbar and Burleson, and is Pajes going to be a guy that can give Contreras a break where Contreras can just DH and Pajes catches? There are so many questions, and I think it really comes down to, can these guys develop? And as a fan, if the roster stays as it is now, how excited, how confident are you in going through this again, even if you add another rotation player? Because how many times were there games this year where the Cardinals lost, 3-2 or 2-1 or whatever, because they could not, for the life of them, get a run?
We're talking with Bryan Kennedy from Channel 4. Since we have you real quick, of course, Channel 4 is behind Matrix Midwest, and you guys have your Mizzou Live pre- and post-game shows on the Matrix Midwest channel, and you guys are just rocking that right now. What's your takeaway off Mizzou almost losing to Vanderbilt, needing double overtime? That came off a game against BC where they were not as impressive as fans would have liked. It feels like this is it's good that they're winning, but they're not winning the way that I think Tigers fans would like them to win.
Right. With this show, I'm essentially watching the games from first kickoff to the final buzzer, right? And that game was ugly. It was bad. You had penalties. You had missed field goals. You had personal. You had everything that a team can do negatively in a game. It had it, but they found a way to win, right? They found a way to come out with win. That's the most sports cliche thing to say, but at the end of the day, they found a way to win. Now, did it come off a kicker missing a kick? Yes, it did. But the final record won't show that they barely won from playing a terrible game. It'll show that they won 30-27 in overtime. And in 2 weeks, you're going to College Station to play Texas A&M, another team. We don't know who they are, right? You beat Florida, who's probably not going to have a coach by the end of the season. You lost to Notre Dame, which Notre Dame may not be that good. This past week, you barely beat Bowling Green. You beat them by a touchdown. Now, they have Arkansas this week, Texas A&M does. We may know more about the Aggies after this week. But I think for Mizzou, you just struggled beating Vandy at home. Now you have to go on the road to face Texas A&M. I think they have a lot to clean up. I think it is good that this rough of a game came before the bye week. So now you can heal up. You can hopefully fix some mistakes before you go into Kyle Field with the 100,000 fans that don't like you. And you have to win there. So it's going to be interesting for this team. I think we really don't know who this team is. One thing this team has not done yet is throw the ball downfield. And if they're going to win in the SEC, they're going to have to figure that out, because you're going to get a good defense that is not going to let Nate Noel rush 100 yards. You're going to have to learn how to throw the ball. And this team has yet to show that they can. Most of their touchdowns come from Luther Burden being an athlete, catching a short pass and scoring. So it'll be the question is, can they make some of those big chunk plays?
He is Bryan Kennedy. You see him on Channel 4. You see him on Matrix Midwest. And we always appreciate him taking time with us. Bryan, thanks for the time. We'll talk again real soon.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
All right, very good. That's Bryan Kennedy joining us on the program. We will take another break, and when we return, we're going to listen to a little bit of what John Mozeliak had to say yesterday here on KMOX. Tom Ackerman had a line of questioning towards the end of the conversation that I think was really notable with what Mo had to say as we try to kind of decipher what the organization might look like going into next year. We'll play that for you coming up in just a moment. It's a Gray Bar Sports Open Line on KMOX.
Nobody wants a surprise in their jelly donut. It's toothpaste? That's because the middle is the most important part. At Gray Bar, we're at the middle of electrical and datacom jobs across the country, connecting installers, facility managers, and business owners with smart solutions for their most challenging projects, which means stocking and delivering crucial products on time and on budget with no surprises, thanks to our nationwide logistics network. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
If you're still waiting for a sign, here's another one. At California Psychics, we reject 98% of the psychics who apply to work for us. So we only connect you with the best. That's how we can guarantee if your reading isn't life-changing, it's free. And right now, new customers receive 20 minutes for just $20. If that's not a sign, I don't know what is. Dramatic sound effect incoming. Experience the joy of certainty at CaliforniaPsychics.com.
Amy Mark scores here, and I can see clearly thanks to the Doctors of Ophthalmology Associates, the doctors you should trust with your eyes. Call 314-966-5000 or yourEyeDoc.com.
Broadcasting from the Underlaw Injury Lawyers, GetJim.com studios.
KMOX says here that Gray Bar is a distributor.
Yeah, we support electrical and datacom projects all over the country.
So you can get me the products I need, where and when I need them?
Yeah, thanks to our national logistics network.
Any industry?
Yeah, construction, industrial plants, schools, hospitals.
So you could say Gray Bar is much more than a distributor.
Yeah, you could say that. When you need a hand powering, connecting, or maintaining your operations, join the thousands of professionals who rely on Gray Bar to help keep them up and running. Yeah, Gray Bar does that.
Rhino Shield is far superior to even the best traditional exterior house paint. Rhino Shield is 8 to 10 times thicker than paint and comes with a 25-year transferable warranty. Rhino Shield is the only ceramic coating company that has been chosen by Disney, This Old House, and 3 times on HGTV's Curb Appeal, where every episode is concentrated on unpainted brick, bonds and seals to stucco, wood, hardy, block, color lock, masonite, and more. No better product for those steel aluminum-sided homes that have become, chalky and tired looking. We coat sloped and flat roofs to extend their lives too. After 15 years, we've got a great reputation and a superior product. As long as it's affordable, why wouldn't you do it? Before you make the costly mistake of painting with traditional paint, you'd be best served to call Rhino Shield today. We are the experts and our evaluations are free. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com. Tell them, ladies.
Don't paint, don't Rhino, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
213 Flashpoint Complex, which is available at Supplement Superstores, will take you to the next level, just like it does for me. I've been killing it in the gym for the last month with a big assist from that 213 Flashpoint Complex. Now, here's what it does. During the day, increases metabolism, fights cravings, gives you all-day focused energy with no crash. Overnight, it burns fat by lowering cortisol levels. It boosts recovery, helps you get a restful night's sleep, and it tastes pretty good, too. 213 Flashpoint Complex is available at Supplement Superstores. Find your location at supplementsuperstores.com.
Drag racers, modern-day gladiators, pitting themselves against 300 pounds of grinding steel, battling each other in the power of 11,000 horses that run hot, risking it all for the thrill of the championship.
Join us this weekend for the NHRA Midwest Nationals at Worldwide Technology Raceway. Join us for a weekend of action. Kids 12 and under get in free and general admission. Brought to you in part by the Illinois Office of Tourism and Discover Downstate Illinois.
Welcome back to the Strike Zone on KMOX. Presented by Gray Bar. Gray Bar, your distributor for electrical and datacom needs.
Back at it on a Gray Bar Sports Open Line. It is a Strike Zone hour here on KMOX. Great to have you with us here on a Monday night. Tomorrow night, we'll do about 45 minutes of Sports Open Line before we get into Cardinals baseball. They open up the second to final series of the year. They are in Denver to take on the Colorado Rockies. Building the Future is sponsored by Graybar, your distributor for electrical and datacom needs. And that's exactly the future, what John Mozeliak spoke about yesterday with Tom Ackerman during Sports on a Sunday morning. So he's on, for 9-10 minutes on a weekly basis. I pulled out about the final 3 minutes of this conversation, and I wanted to play it back for you because, look, we're at a point right now where what things look like next year is a lot more interesting than anything that's going to happen this year. That doesn't mean that we ignore what's going on for the final 6 games of the regular season, but obviously the focus with this team already being eliminated from the postseason is what things are going to look like for next year. That's why tomorrow, Michael McGreevy making the start. That's going to be interesting to see what he does, especially pitching in a place like Denver, which creates some challenges. But the bigger question about the Cardinals is, what does the front office look like? What does the manager's office look like? Is John Mozeliak back fully in control as the president of baseball operations? Do they start the succession plan where the next president of baseball operations is named and they start to take over for next season? Does Mo walk out the door? I don't think that's going to happen, but is that something that is a possibility? Is Oliver Marmol back next season? What happens inside of the front office? What is the development and the scouting going to look like? Gary LaRocque is not going to be in his role as farm director. They're going to have to hire a new farm director. This front office and the brain trust that is the folks that make all the important big decisions for the Cardinals, everything is kind of up in the air right now. So I appreciated Tom Ackerman's line of questioning to John Mozeliak yesterday. Obviously, Mo, who does know more than he can say publicly at this point in time, he had to be careful in how he answers these questions. But this is what John Mozeliak had to say about the immediate future of the Cardinals.
This is an overhaul, if I may use the word, or change that's going to happen. You have already announced the retirement of Gary LaRocque. I know how much you respect him, but that has created an opportunity. You told me that interviews are going to get underway here, that some things are going to start taking place in the next few weeks.
Yeah, it'll be a busy month of October as we look to really reset our front office. And obviously you mentioned Gary LaRocque, a dear friend of mine, was a tremendous asset to this franchise and really did a lot for us, especially in a time of need. And, I look forward to still working with him, but just in a different capacity. And, he really was a special person and loved the game of baseball.
You've been very candid about yourself, that your contract expires in 2025, that you alluded to a succession plan a while back that was going to take place. I know there's been an ongoing process. I respect the process. So I know that when the time comes to make a public announcement as to what that is looking like, you'll tell us. Is there anything that you can reveal about how that has been going?
Not really. I think at some point this offseason we'll definitely sit down with everybody and sort of lay out what that all looks like. But in the meantime, I think the focus is the next 7 days. And then at some point we'll turn the page and then really focus on 2025 and beyond.
And, we've talked a lot about crowds and about perception, about optics, and what this fan base thinks and how you're trying to turn this thing around. Is that also talked about, how you are going to not only do things from a business standpoint, but present to your fan base and communicate with them what you are doing? Does that make a big difference to you? Do you want them to feel like they are part of this as well? Is that important?
Yeah, I think transparency in this particular realm is important. We're certainly grateful for the support we've had over the last 29 seasons under the DeWitt ownership, and we don't take that for granted. And so as we move forward, that'll definitely be something that is part of our plan or something we plan to share with everyone.
When I talk to Ollie, he sounds energetic when he talks about these young players. Have you noticed that? What has he been like here as this playoff contention has fallen out, but he continues to move this team to the finish line here? How do you evaluate Ollie?
I'm, obviously an advocate for Ollie. So, I think he does a really good job. I think this was a tough year. I don't think anybody, probably including Las Vegas, thought our offense was going to be how it was. So, that's a tough one. So, but to still navigate to where we are, I think he's done a nice job. Obviously we've had our fair share of injuries, not that other teams don't, but I think when you look at really where we are, there's a story to be told, but from a managerial standpoint, I thought he did a really nice job.
All right. So that was John Mozeliak yesterday with Tom Ackerman. And I thought I pulled out a few specific things he said. Again, he was going to be limited in what he was going to be able to say. I would think for the most part, look, there are changes coming to this organization. Absolutely, 100%. And I think we're going to start to get an idea of those changes very quickly after the season comes to an end. And I would think that John Mozeliak already has a pretty good understanding and idea of what those changes are going to look like. So while he cannot sit there and make any announcements on what was yesterday. Yesterday was September 22nd when he talked with Tom. Well, he's not going to make any big announcements. I would think that he does know a little bit more than what he is saying at this point. Obviously so. That's not a criticism of him. There's a time and place to make announcements. And with 1 week left in the season, that's not it. But knowing that he knows a little bit more than what he was able to say, you can pull out some things that he said specifically and try to kind of run with that and what it means. And maybe this is all just me trying to make too much of little things, and we'll find that out in a week plus from now. But John Mozeliak in those comments just now did use the term reset the front office. Reset the front office. That was a verbatim 4 words, reset the front office. So part of that is replacing Gary LaRocque. But if you're just replacing one individual, or if you're just replacing individuals kind of in one department, I don't think you use the term reset the front office. So that tells me there are more changes coming. Tom asked about the succession plan, and he said at some point this offseason, we will lay out what it all looks like, but the focus right now is on the next 7 days. So when he says when he starts that, and when he says at some point this offseason, because that was specifically to, are they going to put in place a plan for what's going to happen as John Mozeliak eventually exits his role as president of baseball operations? When he starts that sentence and says at some point this offseason, it feels like, well, that's a ways down the road, that the season will come to an end and they'll work on some pressing needs at the beginning, and then eventually they'll get to the succession plan. But then the next thing he says is, but for right now, the focus is on the next 7 days. And again, that was yesterday. So it'd be now 6 days from right now when I'm talking to you. And that makes me think that maybe that's at some point this offseason, that it could be sooner than later. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I feel like the fans want to see major change, and that was part of something that was said. So he talked about transparency because Tom asked him about the fan support. We all know, like, they did not get to 3 million fans this year. They got to just under 2.9, and it's the first time for that ballpark in a non-COVID year that's been the case. If you've been at games, nobody's trying to lie to you about attendance. Everybody has eyes. Everybody knows that the attendance has been down, that there's been a lot of no-shows with the tickets that have been sold. Like, all those things are true. So this offseason, probably more than any other offseason, it is so important for the Cardinals to communicate to fans what the plan and what the process is going to be. Because, the old adage, no matter what you're doing in life, you're in a sales job. Well, right now, every person involved with the St. Louis Cardinals is involved in sales, and they are selling next year. And it's very important for the organization that they have as high of a renewal rate as possible on season tickets. It's very important that the groups that every year come in on a weekend and, have their annual trip to St. Louis to come to a Cardinals game, that those people still feel comfortable using those dollars. And you have to energize this fan base. And that's where I think the number one question I have, because look, I'm not breaking any news when I tell you that Oliver Marmol is not a super popular individual to a certain part of the fan base. I'm not breaking any news when I tell you that John Mozeliak is not a super favorite of the Cardinals fans right now. I mean, Mo said it. I think it was in a conversation he had with Frank Cusimano towards opening day that he felt like Cardinals fans were tiring of him. Like he hears it, he knows it, he feels it, he sees it. Like that's where things are at right now. So what can you do to energize the fan base? And specifically to Oliver Marmol, Mo said, quote, "I think he does a real nice job." He went on, he said, "I think he's done a nice job." He said, "I think he's done a nice job." So in the course of about 40 seconds, Mo said either "I think he does a good job" or "a nice job" 3 separate times. To me, that says that Marmol's back next year. And so again, that brings us back to what's going to energize the fans. Because if Marmol's fired, unfortunately in the sense that I don't like seeing people lose their jobs, and I also don't think that Marmol's the problem here. But if he loses his job, I don't think there's any denying the fact that that's going to invigorate some of the fan base because he's not so popular. Same thing with Mo. If Mo were to move on at the end of this season, that's going to invigorate part of the fan base. Well, if neither of those things end up happening, what invigorates this fan base and what puts butts in the seats next year? Can they do enough to the roster to do that? Sonny Gray was a nice signing this past year. I don't know if he was that guy that the ticket line was going to be ringing off the hook the day after Sonny Gray was signed, and it's going to take even more for that to happen this offseason. But I thought those were interesting comments made by John Mozeliak yesterday, Tom Ackerman. One more break. We'll come back and we'll wrap up the program. It's a Gray Bar Sports Open Line on KMOX.
I'm Brian Westbrook with Coalition Life. While we celebrate the reversal of Roe versus Wade, there is still much work to be done to support life and pregnant women before they cross state lines. Together, we can provide the love, support, and options that women need to choose life for their children. Coalition Life celebrates more than 3,500 clients served and thousands of lives saved since we began this mission with you. Each one is a miracle. Over the years, day in and day out, our team has walked alongside women facing the fear and challenges of an unexpected pregnancy. Through the support of this community, we have given them hope and a path to choose life for the children they carry. Visit coalitionlife.com to give your vital support while reducing or completely eliminating your state taxes through Missouri's 70% tax credit. Learn more at coalitionlife.com, coalitionlife.com.
I'm Listening reminds you that you are not alone and that talk saves lives. And now it's even easier to reach out and talk to the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline with 988. 988 is just like 911 for emergency services. When you call or text 988 from any phone, you will be connected directly with trained counselors in over 200 crisis centers nationwide. They can get you the help you need anytime, anywhere. Talk saves lives. And with 988, talking is only 3 digits away. Find out more at imlistening.org.
Sponsored by Compass Health Network. We're here for you.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely on advertisements.
You entrusted a nursing home with the care of a loved one, but they violated that trust. If your family member has been the victim of nursing home neglect, call Onder Law at 844-BED-SORE.
Buying a home is one of the biggest financial decisions you'll ever make. Before you tour a home, the real estate professional you're working with may ask you to sign a buyer's agreement, which describes the services you'll receive, each party's role and responsibilities, and how your agent will be compensated, all of which you'll want to discuss with them up front. So work with an agent who's a Realtor. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors with a duty to honestly represent you and put your interests above their own, because that's who we are.
Paul's new drone startup just lost its most genius computer scientist.
We just lost our best genius to some new genius who's got a genius new idea. I'm going to have to find a new genius or 2 half geniuses and fast.
He needs a computer scientist that can keep his startup from falling down.
I need Indeed.
Indeed, you do. When you sponsor a job on Indeed, it's easier for talented candidates to find it, which makes it easier for you to hire them. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
We can get more sleep, we can get more sun, and we can get more exercise. But the one thing that we can't get more of is time. It's time to eliminate the one phrase that could be holding you back from reaching your retirement goals. I'll take care of it tomorrow. It's time to pick up the phone and make the call to Gary Goldberg and the team at Financial and Tax Strategies. 618-361-4232 or online at checkwithgary.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Centaurus Financial Inc., an SEC registered investment advisor. Insurance and annuities offered through Gary Goldberg, NPN number 918615.
Hey, it's Matt, your Leaf Filter Trusted Pro. Gutters are an often neglected part of the home. They're also one of the most important. Clogged, overflowing gutters can cause serious problems like foundation damage or basement flooding, which can cost thousands of dollars to fix. Let's face it, cleaning gutters yourself is not only a hassle, it can be dangerous. But when you get Leaf Filter, you'll never have to worry about cleaning clogged gutters again. Get started today by calling 844-300-LEAF to schedule your free inspection. If you decide to move forward, we'll professionally clean, realign, and seal your gutters before installing our patented stainless steel micro mesh system. Leaf Filter keeps out everything but the water, and it's backed by a lifetime transferable no clogs warranty, so you're protected for good. We're in your neighborhood and ready to help. Call Leaf Filter today for a free inspection and estimate and to save up to 30%. Dial 844-300-LEAF. That's 844-300-LEAF.
Everywhere you look, things are getting more expensive. So at Consumer Cellular, we're lowering the price for those 50 and up. Now you can get unlimited talk, text, and data for $30 a line when you buy two. That's just $60 a month for 2 unlimited lines. So if you're 50 and up, make the switch and save. Come on, you've earned this. Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com today. Requires 2 lines of service, age validation, and credit approval, subject to system and area limits, taxes, and other fees apply.
Mom, meet Sarah.
From first-time Nana moments.
Yeah, welcome to Flight 101.
To annual girls trip moments. Your can't-miss moments are worth protecting against RSV. If you're 75 or older or 60 plus with a chronic condition like asthma, COPD, heart disease, or severe diabetes, you're at higher risk of landing in the hospital from RSV. And there are no prescription RSV treatments. Check eligibility and schedule your RSV vaccine at vaxassist.com.
So where should we go next?
Sponsored by Pfizer.
It's Tom Ackerman. I've been talking about it for years because we've been enjoying it for years, and that is Innsbruck. Innsbruck Resort, Innsbruck-resort.com. What a place. And the home values have increased 105% in the last 5 years, so it's a great return on investment. The new Sonnenhaus houses are available this year. The modern exterior of a treehouse with cozy interior elements of a cottage. Innsbruck-resort.com.
I'm Debbie Monterey, and I see more clearly thanks to the doctors at Ophthalmology Associates. Make your appointment today at 314-966-5000 or online at youridoc.com.
Max Shows presents the St. Charles Gun Show. Shop hundreds of tables with thousands of guns, knives, military surplus, tactical gear, and more. You got to go to the Gun Show this Saturday and Sunday at the St. Charles Convention Center. Visit maxshows.com.
Welcome back to the Strike Zone on KMOX. Presented by Gray Bar. Gray Bar, your distributor for electrical and datacom needs.
About a minute left in the show, but don't go anywhere. St. Louis City Soccer Report. It is on the way next. And Jen Cease is flying solo tonight. She's joining us for a moment.
Yeah, hello.
So,
it's just me.
What's coming up on the next 2 hours?
Busy. So when I'm fly solo, I don't try to do as much talking. It's between me and Nate. So I load up with guests is what I do. So in the first hour, we'll talk to Dave Shilley as we always do. We'll go a little bit over the game, and it was a win. It wasn't the prettiest of wins, but a win's a win.
A win is a win.
Win is a win at this point.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it with Dale, of course, talk a little bit with Matt Baker from Flyover Footy, and then, of course, George Gansner talk about some rules of the game. Second hour, we'll talk to Joey Z, so we'll hype up the Kansas City rival game for Saturday, which is going to be crazy. They're already eliminated, by the way, so boo for them. As well as Dave Ehrenberg to talk about high school soccer, and we'll end up with U.S. men's national team.
St. Louis City Soccer Report on the way next, right here on America's Sports Voice, KMOX.
Life can throw curveballs our way, just like the sudden car accident that put me in a coma 30 years ago, long before I became the Cardinal Cowboy. And just like